The conflict with Iran just changed completely. Listen to
President
this.
Trump says the U.S. has total control over the Strait of Hormuz.
It comes as new details emerge over the reported Iranian threat on the president's life while he was at the NATO summit in Turkey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. It's a story that has captured the world attention this week, a threat against President Trump's life in Turkey last month. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that it was Israeli intelligence that tipped off the administration about this specific danger. The report explains the sourcing on this information, saying the U.S. official said Israel briefed the Trump administration on the intelligence, which included a threat to use shoulder-to-air missiles to target Air Force One. Now, ultimately, the president was moved from Air Force One to another plane using a catering truck, according to initial reports. The story comes as indirect negotiations continue with Iran aimed at opening the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump explained overnight that he doesn't trust the Iranian regime.
Yeah, the negotiations
I'm the last
are over.
person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. Right now, we're in a very good position. We have a country that has been the bully of the Middle East for 50 years, and they're no longer the bully of the Middle East.
But what have we been hearing for the last 3 months? Oh, Trump doesn't have a clue what's going on. He believes everything Iran says. They're playing him like a fiddle. Well, if that's true, watch this.
New details emerging over the reported Iranian threat on the president's life while he was at the NATO summit over in Turkey.
It comes as Trump says the U.S. still has total control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Good morning. President Trump has come to terms with the fact that the U.S. was getting nowhere with peace talks with the Iranians. So he is banking again on economic pressure to try to cripple the regime. That is why he is using the big guns literally to disable vessels that are trying to break the U.S. naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, including last night a vessel that was Panama flagged.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday, U.S. forces disabled a Panama-flagged vessel that ignored warnings in the Gulf of Oman about the ongoing U.S. naval blockade. CENTCOM said an MH-60 Navy helicopter fired 2 Hellfire missiles into the ship's engine room. Still, the Iranians remain defiant as diplomatic efforts are dragging on.
Those efforts are over.
No one thought that Iran could resist in this way against America, with the Israeli regime accompanying it and the support of many other countries, including all Western countries and some other countries that we all know, and not bow its head and ultimately force the enemy to ask for negotiations.
Trump's already said he's the last person that trusts these guys, and right now he says the U.S. is going to keep the Strait of Hormuz and that the blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel. There is nothing Iran can do about it. They have no Navy, no Air Force. Their remaining soldiers are unpaid. Their leadership is uncertain. They have no money. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation, and it's getting worse. And that's why right now the president is saying, look, let's just let the blockade and the economic consequences of this country being a militant aggressor do its thing, and it is. Watch this.
Officials in Israel tell Fox News they are preparing a variety of contingency plans for the uncertain days ahead. Guys?
So, Trey, what would you say is the status of negotiations? I see on Al Jazeera English that mediators are pushing for the U.S. and Iran to start talking directly again, and Pakistan is the one behind it. Pakistan's a problematic ally who's very close with Iran. So your thoughts about this? Because we're not getting any positive vibes coming from Washington.
No, because they're walking away.
At this point, reports indicate zero progress in a broader agreement with Iran. There are ongoing conversations between Iran and Oman about control of the Strait of Hormuz, but as we hear again and again from Iranian officials, they don't appear serious about actually keeping this international waterway open. In the background here, you have the ongoing U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports, and it is costing the Iranian regime hundreds of millions of dollars each day. And this economic pressure is affecting inflation numbers inside of Iran. It's difficult for many of the people there to access the goods that they need because the Iranians aren't even able to distribute general resources to their people. And so as this moves forward, this pressure will continue on the regime in Tehran, and that is one of many levers that the president has to pull on the economic front to pressure Iran to make a good faith deal. On the military front, there are still more than 50,000 U.S. forces staged across the Middle East.
So before we get to what happens next, you've got two things going on here. You have Iran out there saying, look, the Strait of Hormuz is ours. No one ever thought we could resist like this, the U.S. and Israel. We're not going anywhere. And on the other end, Trump says, look, we're just going to keep the Strait of Hormuz. The only piece of this anyone can independently verify is that there is a massive blockade and that it is working and that nothing is getting in or out of Iranian ports, while ships that aren't flagged, headed to Iran at all, are transiting the strait with the help of the U.S. military. And when Trump says we're keeping the strait, he might actually be saying something that's going to happen anyways, because Iran has already basically forced this. They've said they're never going to give up. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz will be obsolete. It will no longer be an energy choke point in a year and a half because everyone is rerouting their oil away from the Strait of Hormuz. So the only leverage Iran has now, they're trying to get to the midterm elections and cause as much chaos as they can, because in a year and a half, this whole thing is over. And Trump can give back the Strait of Hormuz in a year and a half because nobody's going to want it. Watch this.
Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. And at some point, maybe they'll do something. But right now, we're in a very good position. We have a country that has been the bully of the Middle East for 50 years. It's really 51 if you think about it. Right? We've been saying 47 for 4 years. And they're no longer.
So the president doesn't trust Iran, knows that if they make a deal with him, it's pretty much worthless, because just a couple of weeks ago, he and the president of Iran both signed the same deal. And then within 3 days, that whole piece of paper was worthless and was broken. This was the memorandum of understanding. Trump has literally walked away from the negotiations. He's just going to keep the blockade in place, let the Gulf allies reroute their oil supplies around this strategic asset that Iran still thinks they can use against the world. Meanwhile, oil prices today, they're down $82 a barrel. If you look at a 6-month graph here, August 11th, 82. I mean, we're where we were before this whole thing started. We are not even hitting the $100 a barrel that everyone said was going to happen, which means the dire predictions of U.S. failure and capitulation and getting manipulated by Iran and Iran being so much stronger, all of that is fake news. When the president says all they have is fake news and 300% inflation, he's 100% right on that.
Well, I think Iran would dispute that assertion from the president. Iran would say that by virtue of the fact that they retain enough drones and ballistic missiles and their so-called mosquito fleet, that they can interfere with traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, and that I wouldn't say that Iran controls it, but they've disrupted transport through the Strait of Hormuz. I think right now we're in essentially an economic war of attrition with Iran, where Iran seeks to impact the global economy, and we have a very effective blockade which is devastating Iran's economy. And the question I'm sure the president is posing to his national security team and his intelligence community is whether this pressure on Iran will result in any changes in their interest in coming to the negotiating table. So far it hasn't, but neither have military strikes delivered Iran to the negotiating table to negotiate in good faith.
So why did we have those military strikes just a few weeks ago? Remember what happened? We have the ceasefire, we have the memorandum of understanding, which they tear up, and then what happens is Iran starts going on offense in the Strait of Hormuz, going after ships that are not even part of this whole conflict, that have sailors on them, that are non-combatants. And the U.S. military was put in a position where acting was the right thing to do to protect people. So we're actually back to where we were before they started doing that. But the only difference now is Trump says, I will not work with these guys. I do not trust these guys. I'm the last person that trusts them. The only question people have now is, will this affect the midterms? Iran hopes it does. That's the deadline they're looking at. They just want to make it through the midterms and try to cause as much chaos as they can to make it look like Trump has imploded and lost and has no plan and no way out of this, when really the truth couldn't be any more reversed. But just before we continue, this is a paid advertisement for Rumble Wallet, who's sponsoring this portion of the show. What if your bank told you no to your own money? Delayed transfers, frozen accounts, unexpected limits. It happens more often than you think. That's exactly why crypto exists. It gives you control, not partial control, actual ownership. But most people never try it because it feels complicated. That's where Rumble Wallet comes in. Yes, it's a wallet where you can store your crypto, but it's so much more than that. You can buy crypto in minutes, send it wherever you want, or cash out at any time. No waiting around and wondering when your money will clear. It connects with MoonPay, so you can add your debit card, credit card, or bank account and be up and running fast. And inside the wallet, you can choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. And check this out. For a limited time, you can start your wallet with $20 in US stablecoin USAT for tipping Rumble creators like me by entering my exclusive promo code CashJordan20 when you sign up right now. So scan the QR code or follow the link in the description of this video and try it for yourself. And don't forget to use my promo code CashJordan20 and claim $20 for tipping in USAT. For some of you, this might be the first crypto that you've ever owned, and it's free. And once you use it, you'll understand the difference between accessing your money and actually owning it. Restrictions apply. There are a limited number of entries available. Terms and conditions apply. See the description or visit rumble.com/promo-official-rules for details.
So yesterday afternoon, I spoke with General Jack Keane, and he believes that what they will turn to now, Iran,
he's
as we get
100%
closer to the
right.
midterms, is increasing violence and attacks. Here he is.
Just in the last few weeks, they've conducted 22 attacks. And as we get closer, I think we run the risk of the frequency may increase, but also the purpose of the attack and the violence of the attack may also. They think the closer they get to the midterm elections in terms of their actions, the less likelihood the president to respond militarily against them.
Do you agree with that? And what kind of escalated attacks do you think they may turn to?
I think that's the usual sage analysis from General Keane. We're also seeing increased attacks from the Houthis and the Red Sea. I think what Iran wants, if you look at their strategic objective, it's to reduce or eliminate altogether U.S. influence in the Middle East. They want to drive up the cost of us being there.
Based on what the experts are saying, Iran has no desire and will not reappear at a negotiating table in any meaningful way. If in 2 weeks they say they want a deal, if they say they want a deal tomorrow, we should assume, based on this analysis, that that deal is going to be worth about as much as every other deal we've had. Because what is their objective? It is to reduce U.S. influence in the Middle East. How do you do that? You sow chaos between now and the midterm elections. The president's ability to run the government and have support from the people in the government implodes because the communists take over and start working against him. You have all these investigations, and boom, the U.S. doesn't have time to be over there, and they can get back to rebuilding and get back to pursuing everything. That's their goal. They're just trying to make it a few more months. But you have to remember something. They're in a very weak position. They are not this military Middle East powerhouse that they were before Epic Fury began. Their capability to be an aggressor with all of these weapons and drones isn't what it used to be. So any resistance, any attacks they can muster, it's a fraction of what they would have been capable of before this whole thing started. And remember, before this thing started, they were on their way towards achieving nuclear capability, which should frighten just about everybody.
And this is certainly one way for them to do it. I expect our military and our intelligence collection to be on high alert so that we can detect Iran's plans and intentions before
Hopefully
they put them into
nothing
effect.
That happens, but it might.
Obviously, there's a lot of, as General Keane said yesterday, in many senses, it might be better if this story never got out. But we do know the president acknowledged that he was taken out of Air Force One. The details are that it was in a catering truck, and there's reports that there were 3 other close aides who were with him. And it was because they were very concerned about a shoulder-fired missile attack, according to these reports, on Air Force One.
So this story, it's a big story. You've got some people out there that have believed the fake news narrative that Trump did something wrong by escaping from Air Force One. But at the other end of this, does this story make Iran look good? Does it make it look like they're being peaceful and reasonable? No. Not at all. This makes it look like they will do absolutely anything other than pursue a path of peace. And everything we've seen over the last several weeks, several months, what has it done? It has taken elements of the American population that might have thought, hey, these guys will negotiate, these guys will make a deal, and it has solidified opposition to Iran's games that they've been playing not just over the last 4 months, but over the last 47 years. Everybody knows what the president is saying. When he's standing there on the tarmac in front of Air Force One and he says, I'm the last person that trusts these guys, all they do is lie to me. I mean, that's how our country is starting to feel they're not telling the truth. And then we have this story about Trump having to evacuate Air Force One. If Iran wants to come out and say, hey, we're peaceful, we're on defense, I mean, this is the wrong way to say it. This is the wrong piece of propaganda for that line of thinking, which isn't true at all.
So I think first and foremost, this was an intelligence failure. We're supposed to detect threats to the president way out left of boom, as we like to say, so that we can preempt those threats and neutralize them. In this case, there was a short time fuse. The president and his team didn't have very much time to make decisions. Turkey is responsible for the president's safety in country, and they didn't have the intelligence collection, which reportedly came from Israel, and we didn't have enough time, I don't think, to determine the veracity of that reporting. Now, if that was a real threat, it's still ongoing. I think we need to get to the bottom of what that threat was, because it could reinvent itself in some other part of the world against the president or his team.
And that we've seen
Here's what you need to understand about this threat. What are we talking about? We're talking about the same threat the Soviets faced in Afghanistan. You have a shoulder-fired missile, which can be used by one person who just has to get near an airport somewhere, anywhere in the vicinity, and just watch for an aircraft to take off. This is a very hard threat to have a 100% guarantee against. You would need a massive security apparatus. You would need zero leaks. You would need 100% a wall of steel, so to speak, of not just intelligence, but of people, of eyes and ears, and everything around these airports. And the idea that a regime that has come after the president is not going to try and take the opportunity to get one person in position anywhere in the world whenever the president leaves the country. We very well may see this sort of thing again. Other leaders may experience the same thing. It's frightening, it's scary, but the world we live in is a world governed by the aggressive use of force, sadly. That's why we're not looking at peace. We have a regime in Iran that wants to use force to try and flip the script inside America politically. Do you think they're going to make that happen? Do you think the blockade is working? 300% inflation. That's ridiculous. No money for troops. How long is a standing army, which we're apparently told Iran still has, how long are they going to stick around? And you know what this also reveals? These negotiations, they've been a smokescreen, not just from Iran, who's trying to get to the midterm elections, but also from the Trump administration, because we've had this blockade happening in the background the entire time. It's been doing its thing. It's still doing its thing. And now the blockade has become the main tool, right? We're now being told by the news that, oh, we're pursuing a path of economic pressure. Well, that path we've never gotten off that path. It's still happening. It's been happening this entire time. The negotiations, while Iran thought they were buying time, the economic pressure was actually doing something else. What do you think about all that? Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.